legs, which is really what I was going for. So now I'm going to have to retart the thumbnail. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, so actually I'll pick you up when it changes. Oh, I'm off again. Matter if I get that draw ball right, because it will just break through this little bit of sapele. You know, I know it doesn't sound very good, but if I just got to watch out for bird crap now. Welcome back. My name's Matt. This morning I'm going to be finishing a archtop sapele window. Basically the arch top and the rebate section, if you like, for the internal profile of housing the window. I've done all that with a copy ring and some tooling on the spindle moulder. While I'm waiting for what I'm making the external beading, which is going to be basically sapele again, but I've got to do the arch top bit rather than steam it or run a little bit through on the spindle moulder. I'm just laminating up some pieces, thickness and planing these down to about 2.5 mil. They're 30 mil deep, they're oversized. I'll resize them afterwards, and they're just on a former, which was actually part of the former that I made to do the copy ring for the spindle moulder. So I've sort of utilised that. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, so actually I picked you up, went off then, didn't we? Basically, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I just thought I'd take you through how I'm going to assemble these joints. Typically what I'd be doing is I've got some profile bits for the spindle moulder or a mortise and tenon I could do, although I have got rid of my mortiser. And I didn't use the profile bits for the spindle moulder because this window is actually a one-off. It's got a slightly different profile, it's a lot deeper than normal. I've still got to add a rebate to it, and I've got the complication of this arch top, so there's a lot going on. And I thought, bugger me Matt, you've got the Festool XL Domino. Last year I made some sapele doors and shutters using said Domino, and I had someone comment, I had a couple of people comment, no abuse, it was all you know, they were all justified comments, constructive criticism, saying yeah they like it but they don't trust the Domino for external joinery. The main reason being that it's like a friction fit joint. If you've got a mortise and tenon, typically that would be wedged in the end. I think it's called a fox wedge, might be wrong. That would be wedged in the end, and that would create friction. That would splay open the tenon, which would create friction and hold it in place. I've seen those fail because the reality is the end grain has to be on show then, because it's a through tenon. It then accepts water or different environmental changes. Oh, I'm off again. Got the swallows back in the workshop. I won't show you. I'll do a separate video on them. Lovely time of year to have them, but I love it. I love having them back in. And when they first come back in, it's quite interesting. The mum comes around, she gets a bit lost. I have to turn all the lights off and open the door so she can find a way out. I don't actually mind losing that amount of time. Anyway, because it's nice, because they whip past your head. Yeah, mortise and tenon, Domino, fox wedge, I think it's called. Open up, creates friction, holds it in. Sometimes that, we're getting there, sometimes that can basically come out, and it can basically cause it to be a loose. Once the glue's failed over X amount of years, it will cause that joint to be loose. So you're in no better position, I think, really, personally. But when I was in this house templating for the window, I noticed that some of the really old windows, which there's not many left, have got, you can see a bit of a peg in there, and that would be a pegged tenon joint, which again holds it in. Sometimes drawboard, I'm not sure, but what these are, but yeah, it's just like a peg that holds the tenon in place. Obviously the tenon is fixed to the rail, if you like, and then the style where it'd have the mortise, that would have the peg through holding it all in. I'm going to try and replicate that with the Domino, and I thought, oh yeah, it'll be a doddle to do. And so I basically cut it all like I was going to do it, and then realised I've got complications here where the Domino just doesn't want to go through at the right size, so I've had to angle those, actually holding the Festool XL Domino at the angle with no jig was no problem. It's still quite a nice tool to use, I still really like it. And then the other issue I've got is I've realised that basically they're loose tenons, aren't they? So although I'll do a tight tenon in here, so we take this piece here, I'll do a tight tenon, that's tight, that will go in, but when I then put the rest into that slot and I put my drawbar peg down, it might pull those tenons out. So I've actually got to put a peg in there as I do it, and anyone that knows anything about this, if I'm whacking glue in there and whacking that peg in, I need to really do the other joint at the same time, otherwise I've got to get in there and clean all the glue off around the dominoes, which will just be an absolute nightmare. You can see, just for ease, just how it worked out using because the domino's got preset gauges, I've kept just a little smidgen in there. Basically, because what I thought was, when I draw bore, because I've got a draw bore through 2 tenons, it doesn't matter whether this one doesn't really need draw bore in this little bit inside, it'll be inside here, won't it? This looser one, it doesn't matter if I get that draw bore right, because it will just break through this little bit of sapele. You know, I know it doesn't sound very good, but if I'd have put them too far apart, I'd have had to have draw bored the middle bit as well as the tenons, and I just kind of feel like, A, don't know how I get in there a drill bit. That was my main thing, to be honest with you, and B, it's obviously not going to make it any stronger, is it? Don't know if that's really translated like anything I say, probably not. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack you in this high-tech piece of equipment, and I'm going to film the whole thing, and I'm going to pick you up at the end, and we're going to see, you know, how did you think it went, and how do I think it went? Well, you'll tell me afterwards, I'll tell you first, and then you'll tell me. Let's go. I didn't go very well, did it? We'll talk about that in a minute. First, we're going to do this. Check this out. I think they just want to come out. Yeah, just got to watch out for bird crap now. Yeah, basically, that went very, very wrong, very, very quickly. I got all of the draw pegs in the, if you want to call it like the rail ends, so the top and the bottom, no problem. And then when I started doing the dry assembly, because what you need to do is you need to sort of dry assemble these. So you'd slide it through. Let me just grab a domino. Here we go. So I did start cutting this one off, and it's too early to do really. But basically, yeah, so what you do is, put it in there. It's about 75mm in there. Whacked a peg in, no problem. And then when you then do the dry run where that goes into there, what you do is you'd have pre-drilled this, which you probably still, I don't know if that picked up, but I did that. And then you'd use a bradawl or a pencil, which I had out on the bench ready to go. And you'd mark these where the hole is, and then you take it out and you'd off center the drill so it moves in a bit, so that when you drill these holes, they're not 100% lined up with those. So when you use a pencil sharpener on the pegs, when you bang the peg in, it will draw it in, it will pull it in tighter. Hence the term draw bore. These dominoes are such a tight fit that I could not see a way of doing like a dry assembly. You know, the whole point of putting these in prior was so that when I did the dry assembly and pulled it back out, that I wouldn't pull the dominoes out. But actually, it's such a tight connection, and the dominoes, they're brand new bit more or less. So you've done, you know, 30 holes. So it's not a warm bit. They last a long time, I know they do. It's not a warm bit. The dominoes haven't expanded. They've been kept, you know, in the bag and, you know, wrapped up all the time. They just were tight, and that's just how they are. They're quite a tight fit. So getting them in and out for the draw bore in just wasn't working. Not when you got the complications of glue and stuff in, because I got them so far in. I've got about 55mm, I think they've gone in. It's a long way for them to go in and come back out, especially at the angle. So it just wasn't working. I don't mind admitting it. So you'll probably see on the footage, I ended up banging it apart and then caking it back in glue, because the glue obviously is like a lubrication to help it go back in. Then I clamped it back up, and then I just drilled these back in afterwards. So then they're still pegs holding the tenons right, but they're just not draw pegs, which is really what I was going for. So now I'm going to have to retart the thumb now, which is annoying. But yeah, that's basically it. Sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. Thank God I filmed it. That was just an horrendous glue up. That makes me look like I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest with you. And, you know, the reality is it's not an everyday thing for me making a window like that. I just thought, I know the domino's strong enough. It's tried and tested for me and for other people. I knew people were calling it out on previous videos but it is what it's designed for. If you use the right dominoes, etc., and the right, you know, the right sizings. I just thought I'd try it with a draw peg and ask myself, and also ask you, is it any better? Not with a draw peg, no, it's not, in my opinion. But actually, yeah, for a stronger joint, it can only make for a stronger joint if you've got it as a peg, which is what I've got it as, basically. Just like an additional wedge, if you like, in there that just keeps the tenon in place for when the glue fails. But when the glue fails, window's failed anyway, isn't it? That's my sort of logic on it. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm wrong. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it wasn't a very smooth operation, but sometimes that's what happens, isn't it? You know, thought I'd document that for a bit of fun. Turns out it was horrendous. All right then, see you on the next one.